welcome to another Finance Friday, I guess is what we're calling this for now until I come up with a better name for it. But recently I made a big purchase of books and I have my stack kind of accumulating over here. And one of the ones that I picked up, because I believe it was Shelley Warren, if you know who she is, she's awesome. But I remember being in a Facebook group and then somebody having a question on when to really make that decision of when it's time to leave a business. And I wanted to, this book was recommended for a read. And so I was like, hey, I should pick that up because this is a question that comes up a lot, kind of in being in the CFO role. But the book is, and this is going to be backwards, I guess, is The Dip. No, it's not. I guess it's okay. The Dip, and it's by Seth Godin. And so this is the little book that I have read recently, and it literally took me, I don't know, one evening. I kind of stayed up a little bit later. I started reading it and then just went so fast. So this is like a one-day book for sure. Or, you know, definitely in a week if you're just kind of tackling a little bit at a time. But a quick read, I think it's only like 75 pages or something like that. But the idea of the book and the subtitle is a little book that teaches you when to quit and when to stick. And this is a conversation that happens a lot in the entrepreneurial world. And you hear this advice sometimes that's like, just keep going, don't quit, quitters will never win. And so we've got, and you know, you hear that in sports a lot, and you hear it in professional settings, and you hear it all over the place. But this book is teaching you that is actually one of the most dangerous pieces of advice you can actually you can implement in your business, or you could really implement in life in general. So I'd like to just kind of talk about that, but specifically from the business side of things, because that's what we're here for, and that's what I do. So the idea is that there is in every action that we take, we need to determine if it's going to be worth it in the end. And there are a couple things that, a couple different curves, I guess you will, of what that he's describing specifically in this book. So he describes the dip, which is where you start an effort and then you get results and then it becomes challenging. So you go into this dip. And then if you push far enough on the challenge, then eventually it will have a return. And it's important that curve goes up at the end, because the challenge is hard and it can be long and it can be really bad. It could even go down further than maybe where you started. But then at the end, there's this, upward ticks of result. And then he describes that as a visual, and he says that is the dip. And if you can get through the dip, it will be worth it. The other line that he likes to describe is a cul-de-sac. So you go through your effort, but then it loops you back. It keeps looping you back, and without any increase of result, and kind of in the same amount of toil over and over and over again. Okay. There's one more dip or one more curve that he describes, but it's pretty rare, so I'm not even going to talk about that right now. So all of the actions that we take, and even in our businesses, we kind of have two roads to go on. We either push and persevere and it's going to be worth it in the end and it's going to make sense, or you're just going to toil and toil and toil and never really get to the results that you want it to be. So he describes, kind of some indicators on when you're in one over the other, but he also talks about how to make sure that you're actually in a dip and not in a cul-de-sac. So one of the things that I think is really important is that he talks about not starting something unless you're committed to actually being the best in that. And this is something that I kind of had a challenge with, because I was like, well, nobody would ever start businesses if they were saying, oh, I have to be the best, because like I'm a CPA. So if I said, oh, I'm going to be the best CPA in the world, it's like, well, I know tons of people who are way smarter than me. There's no way that I can be smarter than them. So I'm just not even going to start. And that is not the point. the point is, if I'm going to start a business being a CPA firm, or if I'm going to start a business being a CFO, I need to be the best CFO I can possibly be to my micro environment. And that means that my network, the people around me, see me as being the best, or my company as being the best go-to. If I'm not willing to put in that type of effort to be the best in my micro environment, then maybe it doesn't make sense to do this whole thing, which I think is kind of an interesting topic. Hi, Melanie. Because that seems a little bit much. But the point is that if you don't have that type of intention from the beginning, the dip is going to be too hard to overcome. So if you don't have that intention from the very beginning that says, I am willing to do what it takes to get to that successful level, then when you get into the doldrums of just, doing all the things and you're working hard and you feel like it's just, you want to quit, like that feeling of like, like all of this is just not worth it, then you're going to stay in that space, and then you're just going to keep working. And if you're not working on figuring out how to be the very best, you're not going to get out on the other side. So I felt like that was pretty important, because it made me go, okay, if I'm going to start an action, even if I'm going to branch out to a new line of business or a new service offering or something like that, I need to put my full attention on planning on whether or not I want to stick through it, and whether I think the payoff in the end is going to be worth it, or if it's just like, it's not even worth starting if I'm not willing to do what it takes for that to be the very best thing. So let's say I wanted to go out and start do an online course. And, I wanted to like get the software and do the things and like, record all the videos, and I want to do an online course. If I'm not willing to make that the best online course for my audience that it could possibly be, and put in the effort to actually sell it and do it and go for it and like full on go in, then it's going to be a mediocre course. It's probably not going to sell very well. I'm going to probably have invested a lot of my time, a lot of my energy, a lot of money into making it happen, and then it's just not going to return much. And then I'm going to think, oh, do I need to record another course because that one didn't make much money? Okay, I need to like keep on going. So then you kind of get into this very stagnant cul-de-sac effect of like it never really goes anywhere, but you're just kind of keep trying a little bit, and is it worth it? So that's what this book is kind of helps you work through. So it's not giving you like practical strategies as much as it's just giving you examples and like food for thought, a lot of food for thought. Actually, when I read this, I didn't sleep all that well that night, because I was thinking about my clients, and I was thinking about every situation and kind of crossroads that my clients are thinking about right now. And I was going through my list of like, okay, maybe they're just in a dip, or maybe they need to reconsider the whole thing entirely, or maybe just this one thing is a cul-de-sac, but this part of their business is, they're in the dip and they just need to push through and get there. So for example, I have a client that has been working on a, oh yeah, Melanie, please read it, because I really want to talk about this with you. I think the thing I like the most about it is just that really simple visual of trying to figure out where you are right now in any particular journey. So I have a client right now that they have worked years on a software, with always the thought that this was going to pay off in the end. Years, like 10 years at least. They have been working and diligently working and improving and working and improving. And it has never gained the traction that we have been hoping that it has, but always with that thought at the end that it will pay off. And you know what? It's going to. I really, really think that we're now on the precipice of it actually taking off and running, because I think they were able to really see that, no, this is something the world actually needs, and have really clear vision on that. And the fact that they were able to like continually like walk through it and say, no, 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 this is what the world needs. No, 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 this is what the world needs. And it is cool because now it's being picked up. Like, I'm not going to give away like what it is, but it's being picked up with something that's actually happening, that essentially will give it global exposure like it's never had before. So it's super exciting because we've always, every year working with this client has been like, does this make sense? Does this make sense? Does this make sense? Because we continually had that like, okay, we're break even, break even, break even, break even. But now it's starting to get to the point where it's like, okay, like now the world is seeing they actually do need that. And so I think that that is one of those like really cool moments in business where you get to go, okay, like, yeah, for a long time it felt really, really hard and it felt like your idea was not getting there. But when you have that vision that's really clear and you know that if you do stick through it, that it will pay off and be successful in the end, I think those are the things that get me really excited. I have another example of a different business that I was working with, and I just thought that they were, I thought the idea that they had was really great. We were forecasting what the business would look like, and we took into account like their goals of what they wanted to do to take home funds at the end of the day, and like what their take home pay would be and like what we thought the business would look like. So we basically projected it out of what the business would have to look like for them to achieve their goals, personal goals. And when it really came down to it, they looked at the numbers and they said, gosh, that's never what we intended this business to be. And we don't actually want to build this business to that level. And it was like, oh, okay, well, they decided, they put their pride aside. And that's one thing that this book talks about, because it says one of the biggest challenges for business owners is really being able to confront their pride in everything and making these decisions. Because so this company, the owners decided to stop. They decided to finish out their contracts and just not pursue the business anymore. They left with cash in their pockets, and they left with goodwill in their clients before it tanked and before they couldn't really keep up with the demand or anything like that. They decided, this is not the business we want to grow. We're going to stop it here, and we're going to go and rethink. And I just remember thinking at that moment, at first I was like, oh no, I hope my projections didn't, cause them to be discouraged. But then really what it was is that the projections gave them insight down the road, so they didn't have to toil for years and years to get to that goal that they may have not been able to attain. And so they were able to make a decision up front. And I remember thinking very clearly, like, how much bravery that takes, because there's so much pride in the entrepreneurial world, and there's so much that when you build a business, you feel like it's part of you, and letting it go feels like you're letting a part of you down. So I love the fact that they were able to really think about that really clearly, and they were able to put their pride aside, which is huge. Because that's one thing here. It says pride is the enemy of the smart quitter. And being a smart quitter is someone who doesn't do it in a reactionary way. They don't quit on the day that you have like the bad day at work. They don't quit on the day that, you decide like, oh, this client is just too much, and you fire them. They quit because it's part of their strategy, because they realize that it's not worth their effort anymore to keep going. So, yeah, Melanie, that was really awesome. It was like, it felt really good in some way to give them that sort of insight, but it also was kind of challenging in that you never want to give someone, not great news, but at the same time, that's like, how many thousands and hundreds of thousands of dollars would they have saved to like stop now and then rethink, rather than go down the path and then lose years of your time too. So I really commended them, because I thought that was just had really mature, very, very mature decision making on their part. So yeah, so pride is the enemy of the smart quitter. I feel like that's that's really huge. So I think that the biggest thing there is that we don't want to be too scared to say, this isn't working for me and I need to do something different. And, you know, being able to stand confidently in those decisions too, to say, like, this is not where I want to be. I don't want to lose any more of my time following this thing just because I'm prideful. And I think that that is, nobody ever wants to say that. You never have to announce that to the world either. You can just say, this is not what I'm doing anymore, and be confident in that. So, and again, when you quit, it should never be out of panic, because sometimes those, oh, that's another thing that this book talks about. It talks about the challenges and really the hard parts of your business. You should start to look at them as your ally, which I was like, ally? Like, I hate those moments where you're thinking, holy cow, like, this is horrible. I don't want to do this anymore. But it says, think about those challenges as your ally, because when you get through them, they're going to make you that much better. And the fact that you can get through them where somebody else might not. Somebody else might be too scared away from the challenge. So you are that much further ahead on your from your competition. So I thought that that was really, really interesting, because yeah, I tend to shy away from too much challenge, and I felt like that was a personal word that I needed to hear. So anyways, yeah, I think I really enjoyed the book. I would love for someone else to read it, and I know that other people have, but other people to read it, and then let me know what you think about it, because, and then just put the comments in this video afterwards. Even if you read it down the road, like, come back and find this video, because it's just going to sit on my Facebook page. And yeah, let me know what you think. And I'd also love to know if you have been in that situation where you are trying to make that decision right there. Is it worth it for you to keep going? Is it worth it? Do you need to just stop now? One thing it really doesn't recommend is getting into the depths of the dip and then giving up. That's what happens. That's what happens a lot, where people are in the dip. There could be payoff at the end, but they just quit because it just feels too hard at that moment. So that is the worst time to quit, when you're right in the middle of the dip. Now, my client that stopped before they hit the dip, they were actually up at the top. So if the dip goes like this, right? So they had started with results, and they had gotten good results, and they looked down at the dip, and I think they said, not worth it to us, not this business, not now, which I think was just, again, had so much insight into it. So, and then my client that is now coming up out of the dip, if they had stopped 2 or 3 years ago, they would have wasted years and years and years of development, like so much time, money, effort, and energy. And now they're coming out on the other side, and that makes sense to stop there. So, or to, like, keep going from there. They're not going to want to stop because it's going to be so successful. So those are just a couple examples. The CFO role is really here to kind of help see that forward vision, help you specifically with those things like cash flow projections and revenue projections, and what could your business look like in 3 years. So hey, Amanda, yeah, I like, read this book definitely, and let me know what you think, because I'm just a new little fan of this tiny little book. So basically, think about it. Think long-term in your business, because in the moment, it can feel super hard. And you can get really discouraged when you're just looking at a tiny snapshot in time. So think about, what do you want it to look like a year from now? What do you think it could look like 3 years from now? And what do you think it could look like 5, 10 years from now? So those things will help you push through the hard times, and those conversations and those overall kind of vision points can help you determine whether or not it's time to just say, no, never mind, or yes, let's walk into this. it's funny because they actually give a reference in this book. Melanie, it took me probably 2 hours to read. I don't know. I put it down and then I picked it back up when I couldn't sleep. So maybe 2 hours total, 2.5 hours. It gives a example of someone picking up snowboarding as a hobby. And you know, if you're going to be a professional snowboarder, you're going to have to put the time and energy into it to get through it, and to do all the work that it takes to become a professional snowboarder. And it's funny because I've actually had a bunch of people try to get me to do snow sports. I have never been into snow sports. I did not live in a place growing up that we did snow sports. And so I never really was exposed to it. And then when I moved out to Washington, everybody skis and snowboards, and it's just a thing. And I've actually decided that I'm not even going to try, which sounds kind of boring and like, oh, you're not even going to try, that's whatever. But it's that fact that I don't think I'll actually be able to put in the time, energy, and effort to go up to the ski resorts, put in the money, like buy the snowboard, do the rentals or whatever, and go up enough times for where it starts to be fun for me. Like I'll have to like work, and then I won't have that. I won't be able to put enough time in to get to the fun part. So for me, I'd rather do things that I can go out and be fun immediately, that I don't have a big learning curve at this point in my life, because I just know that it's realistic that I'm going to maybe get up to the snow like 1 to 3 times a year, even if I make that investment and I say yes. So it's just that thinking through it and saying, what is the end? Is it going to be worth it after all? So I'm going to leave it there. I blabbered on for a little bit, but again, let me know if you read the book and if you love it and what is the biggest takeaway from you. And post it in the comments. And have a wonderful Friday. And just know that you do not have to continue doing something just because you started it. And being a smart quitter is way better than just a prideful continuer. I know continuer is not a right word, but you get the point. Okay. We'll see y'all next time. Bye.